Good morning, everybody. Welcome to this Thursday, July 25th meeting of the Planning Commission. Beautiful Lake Tahoe. It's a pleasure to be here, and thank you all for coming out. If you join me now in a salute of the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Sue, if you could do a roll call for us, please.
Yes, thank you. Good morning. Mr. Cannon.
Here.
Mr. Herzog.
Here.
Mr. Johnson.
Here.
Mr. Nader.
Here.
Mr. Hauge.
Here.
Mr. Sevison. Mr. Moss.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. EJ, report from Planning Director.
Good morning, EJ Avaldi with the Planning Services Division. You realize the lights are off, right? You guys are okay with that? Yeah. We got plenty of light from outside. So the last meeting we had was June 13th. So it's been a while since we met. So a couple board meetings to update you on. July 9th, as recommended by your commission, the board approved the Stone Ridge and Westwood Family Sellers Project. That was the 8-lot subdivision and winery in the Newcastle area. And then the board was up here just this past Tuesday. I was, as well as several others in this room. They took action to approve the Squaw Valley Alpine Meadows base-to-base gondola. And they also took final action on the Quarry Ridge Office Park project that is down in Granite Bay. So that just happened on Tuesday. For upcoming Planning Commission meetings, we're back to regular schedules. We have both meetings in August are going forward. August 8th is the first one. We're going to have the draft EIS meeting to accept comments on the Placer County Conservation Plan. And then there's also a couple other projects, one in West Placer and Granite Bay, that will be on that agenda as well. And then August 22nd, we're doing a workshop on the Placer County Sustainability Plan. Just so you all know, which I think you do, the draft plan was released for public review on Monday, July 22nd, and there's a 45-day public review period. This document is also posted on the county's website under Sustain Placer. There's going to be 2 public workshops, one scheduled for August 19th, and that's here at the Event Center in Kings Beach, and then there's another one down in Auburn at the Community Development and Resource Agency building on August 20th. And then that's in addition to the meeting that you'll have on July 22nd. Or not July 22nd, August 22nd. So with that, that's all I have to report. Any questions? All right, seeing none, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Now would be the time for meeting for public comment. This would be on items not scheduled to be discussed later in the agenda today. Anybody wishing to do so can come up and address the commission now. We will limit time to 3 minutes. Ellie?
Thank you. Ellie Waller, North Tahoe West Area Plan team member. Today I'm here about the process of recusal. There's a potential that this will go into one of your timed ivitems, but I've recently attended the design review this week, and a similar issue came up, and I understand the attorneys from Placer are going to come to the design review, have the discussion to figure out what recusal really means. In the case of what may happen today, there should be 2 people then, and I don't know how far into discussion I can get. Larry's on the TRPA board that approves the bigger regional plan, that projects happen to be under here, where somebody else, like Anders, did an analysis for the process. So again, until County Council can come and talk to all the boards now, I think, because lots of people work on projects, live in the area where there might be financial gain. There's lots of things that could happen. I think when I get up to make my other comments, maybe we can have some discussion. But this is benign about recusal based on me understanding that County Council is going to come and talk to design review for very similar things. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? No?
Hello, I'm Carolyn Mermel, resident since 1975. County of Placer Board of Supervisors. I'm writing in reference to the Brockway Vista Avenue off of Seaclane, Kings Beach, California. We're on the understanding that the regional plan is tracking for a paved road and a bike trail or sidewalk going from Highway 28 through Brockway Vista to Seacline Street to Highway 28. We understand that the intentions for the current road to be paved with utilities to go underground and the roadway to be opened up access for Highway 28 through the La Lima project to Seacline Beach back to Highway 28 via our residential properties. We understand that La Lima Group is paying for this as part of the proposed development of the area that they have purchased. We've lived on Brockway Vista for 33 years. We would like to... Pardon me?
Are we getting into something that's on the agenda here already?
So actually, both this comment and the current one relate to an item on the agenda. Public comment is traditionally reserved
For items, yes.
on the agenda, so the proper place to.
Oh, so we have to do this when it's another time?
Don't
Sorry.
go away. It'll
Okay.
be soon.
Still
but-
today, it's just later.
Will you let me know when? Okay, thank you.
Anyone else wishing to make comments about items not on today's agenda? Okay, seeing none, we'll go ahead and close the public comment. And we'll move on to the consent agenda. We just have one item. We have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
I believe the motion was Mr. Johnson and the second by Mr. Nader. So a vote from Mr. Cannon.
Before we do that, we should actually open it up to the public to see if they want to.
Oh, my apologies, I just, seeing that what was on there, is there anybody who would like the item on the consent agenda to be removed and brought up for discussion? Commissioners, members of the public, seeing none, we'll go ahead with our motion and second. Roll call, please, Sue.
Yes, from Mr. Cannon.
Who will abstain due to his absence from the last meeting?
And Mr. Herzog.
Abstain, absence.
Mr. Johnson.
Yes.
Mr. Nader.
Yes.
Mr. Hauge.
Yes.
Mr. Sevison.
Yes.
Mr. Moss.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sue. Okay, it looks like we're moving along in good time for our 10:05 item. Callie?
Good morning, Chairman and Commissioners. My name is Callie Kedinger-Cecil with the Placer County Planning Services Division. The item before you this morning is a subdivision map modification for the Bear Creek Association subdivision for a reduction in the mapped front setback. The project is located in Alpine Meadows, and the parcel is located in the southwest portion of Alpine Meadows, shown here in blue. The subject property is zoned residential. Adjacent parcels to the east and west are under the same zoning designation, and the parcels shown in green are zoned open space. The Bear Creek Association subdivision map was recorded in February 1963. This map established a 30-front setback. The first 10 feet of that setback is a road widening easement, and then the remaining 20 feet is a building setback easement. The subject property is Lot 70, and it's shown in blue, and it is bound to the south by John Scott Trail and to the north by Park Drive. The .34 acre parcel is zoned residential, as I mentioned, has 2 front setbacks. There is a deed restriction that prohibits access from Park Drive. The existing parking area is parallel to John Scott Trail. And existing vegetation on the site consists of primarily fir and pine trees. This is the existing and proposed site plan. On the left is existing, on the right is proposed. They are proposing to construct a 2-car garage, enclose a walkway, and have a non-livable storage area on the bottom. So this shows us a little bit better. It's they are requesting to be 13 feet from the front property line, where a mapped setback of 30 feet is currently in place. There would be about a 288 square foot extension of the addition in that setback, but it's important to note that this would not interfere with the 10-foot road widening easement. So it would be extending into the setback, but it would still be outside of the road widening area. The elevations submitted for the project demonstrate that the project complies with residential development standards for coverage and height. The height is 16 feet, the allowable height there is 30 feet. And the renderings here demonstrate what the final design of the project would look like. So staff recommends that the Planning Commission find the map modification to be categorically exempt from environmental review under CEQA. Pursuant to sections 18.36070 of the Placer County Environmental Review Ordinance, supported by findings contained in the staff report. And staff also recommends that you approve the subdivision map modification in the Bear Creek Association subdivision to allow for a 13-foot front setback where there is a required 30-foot map setback on John Scott Trail in order to construct a residential addition that includes a 2-car garage, a driveway, and mudroom, supported by the findings and conditions contained in the staff report. I'm available for any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Kelly. Any questions?
Lucy, I guess one question I have is, normally in the snow country, you want at least a 20-foot or so driveway. And so in the case of this project, we're only talking about a 13-foot driveway. And then if the road is widened, then you have a 3-foot driveway.
Well, there's a little driveway and then the garage. So that garage would actually be 13 feet. So there would be some space between the road and where the garage would be. But if the road were widened, yes.
Yeah, but there's not room, like if you have a pickup truck, a 21-foot pickup truck or a 20-foot pickup truck, and you park in the driveway, the rear end of the truck would be out in the road, right? Is that correct?
Potentially, yeah.
And so, at any rate, I guess one of the questions that is going to be in my mind, I want to hear the rest of the presentation, but at any rate, previously we've had presentations from County Public Works where they're concerned about these parcels that actually don't have a driveway, and when they're trying to do snow clearing, it presents a problem. And so at any rate, that's going to be a thought that's in my mind. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have a question. Why just one lot? If this is appropriate for the subdivision, why aren't we modifying the setbacks in the entire subdivision rather than just singling out one lot? The other concern is if you build that road and widen it, which really should happen because that's a really narrow road at that location, you have a building corner 3 feet away from the road. So if you have fire equipment or other equipment, there is a potential for, hitting the building. So I'm concerned about that.
Let me point this out a little bit. It is pretty tight there, but it still would be outside of the 10-foot road widening easement.
Right, 3 feet out. Right.
In regards to why it's only one lot, that is what the application was requesting, was for a single lot. So that's why it's one lot. There wasn't a request to modify the setback on multiple lots in this instance.
Are we going to get then 30 more applications for modification in the future? Just it's kind of singling out a variance, and it just doesn't seem appropriate.
Well, there have been several lots in this subdivision that have had similar subdivision modifications. I believe that this same applicant has worked on at least 5. So perhaps there is an opportunity for a larger motion to be made in regards to the setback in this subdivision.
Okay.
Anyone else? Thank you, Kelly.
Thank you.
I'd like to invite the applicant, I guess, to come up.
Hello, I'm Rob Olson, the architect for the project and a neighbor of another one of my neighbors looking to add a garage to a old 1960s, 70s home that didn't have a garage to begin with. And a couple of notes that I will point out that because the property line is skewed, it's 13 feet at the deepest portion into it, but because it's angled, we are allowed to have 2 20-foot by 10-foot parking spaces off street on the property. So because of the angle, you can see here that we still can get those, but because the property line goes like that, that's the farthest point and kind of where the walkway is, the covered walkway. so it's not as bad as it sounds. Also, it is private roads, and there is a 10-foot road widening easement that's possible, but Bear Creek Association has sent signals that they don't, at this time, foresee widening the road. I would also note that we don't want a global variance that's good for everybody to reduce it, because I'm also working down the street on a ground-up home, that home is totally out of its functional life, and we are respecting the 30-foot setback that is mapped on there. So that's, and also not everyone's paying me to submit for 110 lots in the area. So I do appreciate the comment, though, because I don't want to have to keep coming here and doing this for each garage that I do over time. But if you have any other questions.
Yeah, does the plan actually, you talked about 2 20-foot parking places?
When I've talked with staff before in engineering over the years, it always seems like they want 2 off-street parking because of snow plows and other things that have been hitting stuff, vehicles that have been buried in the wintertime. Maybe engineering could state if it's an official 2 parking spaces or not. I'm not sure. That's just what we've been trying to accommodate.
Well, I guess what my question is that part of the plan? It doesn't look like it's on the plan.
Yeah, actually, there's 2 dashed. We have these 2 dashed off-street parking spaces right here that are off onto the owner's property, and then there's a 2-car garage. So the assumption is that when you have guests, the guests won't be having the butts of their car into the road where a plow will plow. Yeah. Does that answer your question, or?
Well, let me look at the map here.
Yeah.
I can see it on that map.
It's on A0101. It's right there. There's kind of dash. There's a lot of these days. There's a lot of notes we put on these drawings, but I can kind of show it to you. So we have these dashed lines, and it says 9-foot by 20-foot parking guests. Those 2 spots, and so. That's the tightest point right there. But when you look at the length there, we start to get a lot of space. Granted, obviously, if that 10-foot widening happened,
We'll wipe it out.
Okay. We need to get you back up by the microphone so we can keep all this on record.
Sorry.
That's all
For the
right.
record, I was just pointing out the 2 9-foot by 20-foot parking spaces.
Thank you. Anyone else? Thank you very much.
Yep, thank you.
At this point, we'll open it up to the public for comment. We will have a timer going. We have a timer going. We do have a timer going. Limit comments to 3 minutes if we could, please. Seeing none, we'll close that portion of the hearing and bring it back to the commissioners.
Well, Mr. Chairman, it's been sort of a tradition that we allow as much as we can for on-street parking. Does Public Works have any thoughts on this particular application? Is it kind of within the realm of what we've been doing traditionally, or is it exceeding those?
It is, because they do show that they have the availability for 2 cars to park off the pavement and to have that 20-foot distance. I should also mention that this is a private drive, so the county doesn't maintain the roadway. So it's much less of a concern for the county. It would be upon the HOA to approve this, which they have. If you look on the plans, the Bear Creek Planning Committee has approved the proposed project.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? We have a motion.
I'm looking for it here, Mr. Chairman.
We got it up on the board for you if you'd like.
I don't know if I can read it on.
Well, I can help you, Larry, if you want me to.
Why don't you read it and I'll say yes.
Okay. Okay, I'd like to make a recommendation to the Board of Supervisors to find that the map modification to be categorically exempt from the review under CEQA pursuant to the provisions of Section 15305 of the California Environmental Quality Act, guidelines in section 18.36.070 of the Placer County Environmental Review Ordinance. Class 5 minor alterations in land use limitations supported by the findings contained in the staff report.
Is this a final decision, or is it the Board of Supervisors?
Oh, it is a final on this one? Because it's stated as a recommendation.
That's
your
That's our
recommendation.
recommendation.
That's to you.
Okay, that's the recommendation. Okay, final to us then, okay. Sorry, modify that.
I'll second it then.
Sorry.
So we have a
I'm so used to
motion,
passing this one on.
we have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
So I've got Mr. Nader as the first and Larry as the second. Mr. Sevison? Okay. So we'll have a vote from Mr. Cannon, please.
Yes.
Mr. Herzog?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes?
Mr. Nader?
Yes.
Mr. Hauge?
Yes.
Mr. Sevison?
Yes.
And Mr. Moss?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll further move that we, as a committee, approve the subdivision map modification of the Bear Creek Association subdivision, Lot 70, to allow for a 13-foot front setback where there is a required 30-foot map setback, John Scott Trail, in order to construct a residential addition, including a 2-car garage, driveway, mudroom, supported by the findings and conditions contained in the staff report.
Second.
I have a first by Mr. Nader, a second by Mr. Sevison. So a vote from Mr. Cannon, please.
Yes.
Mr. Herzog?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes?
Mr. Nader?
Yes.
Mr. Hauge?
Yes.
Mr. Sevison?
Yes.
And Mr. Moss?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, we can move on to our 10:15 item, the Lakeside Redevelopment. Before we get started,
I need to recuse myself in that my company was contracted with the applicant to prepare the visual analysis in 2016.
thank you. We'll kick you out the room, and
I am.
we'll send somebody to wake you when we're done.
Be back by 5.
Hope you're done by that.
Yeah, me too.
Alan, you ready for us?
I am. Alan Bruce, I'm the project planner for the Lakeside Redevelopment, formerly known as La Lima. And thank you for the Planning Commission being up here today. It's a beautiful day in Lake Tahoe. Staff as well as the public. I'm glad we're seeing a full house here. It's good to see. This particular project, I'm going to get everyone oriented and go over the main discussion, the proposed project, the entitlements that the applicant would like to have approved. The applicant is here, Brian Helm. He will be presenting right after me another PowerPoint. To get everyone oriented where this particular project is, it's actually pretty close to where we are right now in Kings Beach. Oops, looks like the pointer's not working. Is this another pointer? Okay, here we go. So the subject site is in the downtown Kings Beach area. This is where it is right here. The subject property is crosshatched. Here's Brockway Vista as a residential road. Highway 28, also known as North Lake Boulevard. So this is the subject site. The zoning and surrounding uses, it is zoned North Tahoe East, mixed use, Lakeside Town Center. The subject site again is right in here. So that you can see here the Dave Ferrari's, the red, that is part of the project site. The surrounding area, it is zoned up in the northern side. It's residential. We call that the Kings Beach Grid. It is a multifamily as well as single-family development. You have the highway, which has a mixture of commercial, hotel, motel, and some scattered residential, but not much. The project site is approximately 1.85 acres, 80,000 square feet. It was created in 1928. It has 22 lots. It includes 2 motel businesses, the Goldcrest, the Ferrari Crown, that are currently operating, and then you have the Falcon Lodge, which is the third one, which is currently suspended operations and is closed due to health and safety violations. It currently has a chain link fence in front of it. The overall site has 92 motel units with 20 with kitchens, 112 surface parking spaces that are scattered throughout the site. That does include backing out onto the sidewalks that are out there now. The 3 hotel-motel units that are out there, there are 8 buildings totaling about 38,000 square feet. They were built in the 1950s, early 1960s. To get everyone oriented towards the existing conditions, this is on North Lake Boulevard. Up at the top is Dave Ferrari's Hotel Motel. Then you've got the Gold Crest at this site, and then this is the Falcon Lodge that's currently fenced off. Brockway Vista Avenue, which bisects this particular project. To get everyone oriented, it is a county-maintained road that goes from Seacline and then turns into a paper road that's right in here that turns into the beach. That's facing towards the west. This is facing towards the east, the same boulders. This is some of the hotel motel that's facing towards Lake Tahoe off of Brockway Vista. This is a little bit more of what's, as you stand further down Brockway Vista on the west, facing towards the east, the project site. And you can see some of the residential uses on both sides. There, I will discuss a little bit more, but to get everyone oriented, there is one single-family home that's on the eastern side. It's not part of the project at all. But I'll talk a little bit more because I know the property owners here, they may talk, and so I'll explain a little bit more about how this project is near it and it may affect it. So the proposed project, basically they're going to demo the existing hotel-motel uses and propose the subdivision, the planned development portion for 10 residential units. So what you're seeing here is actually the northern part of Brockway Vista. So I'll show the next slide, I'll show the southern part. But part of the northern side of the site plan, there is 3 buildings that will be commercial, building 11, 12, and 13. The two in the front that face North Lake Boulevard are approximately 755 square feet. The applicant is proposing to build the shell only at this time, and then later on a tenant would come in for tenant improvements to allow occupancy there. The parking is right next door, right here, that comes off North Lake Boulevard. Then you have, as part of your part of staff's recommendation, is an administrative permit. And I will say, typically those don't go in front of the Planning Commission. That's staff review only. But because overall this is a global application, a conditional use permit, plan development, and subdivision, we are deferring to this also as a global approval to their Planning Commission for their final recognition and approval if they so choose. But that's what the administrative is, to allow the restaurant use within this new building number 13. And they have their parking here. Up above the restaurant, there is an amenity for the homeowner association. It is private. It is not open to the public. The restaurant is open to the public. There is a proposed walkway that's going to be open to the public here, 5 foot wide, that actually goes to a 10-foot wide multi-use trail that's part of our area plan. And I'll go into more detail, but this is the location it'll be. The applicant will do the improvements, underground and utilities up along their site, and then continue, and it'll be another map, it'll continue all the way to Seacline. It's approximately 640 square feet. There is parking proposed for each individual residence. Off Brockway Vista, there's garages. This is the southern part. So these are the additional 5 residential units. Here's Lake Tahoe. Here's the multi-use trail, and here is the restaurant I was talking about. This is Debbie Langston's property. It is not part of the project. Like I mentioned, you saw the photographs. They are going through their own approval process for abandonment of part of Brockway Vista for their own parking needs. So that's being considered ultimately in front of our Board of Supervisors. It's not there yet, but that's the plan by that property owner. There will be no parking along Brockway Vista just because of the limited parking area. This is the plan that shows the rest of the multi-use trail that continues, and it is conditioned in the project over to that side. I should mention, too, there's one thing that the commission should know. Condition 53I, it's on page 11 of your document. It discusses about a trail system, dedication of easement, that will be from this location, 15 feet wide, all the way to this location here. Staff is proposing that in case there is a future need for additional access for the public for beach purposes, going all the way to the event center here, because they have a promenade proposed, and we would like to eventually link up not only to the multi-use trail up above, but potentially down here eventually. So we'll just ask for an easement as part of this project and a future connection that we would do along the beach as well as continuation up to the other side. So I would like to point that out. The applicant, after reviewing the proposed conditions, they have concerns. They would like that striked out as part of the conditions, but I do want to let the commission know that that's what they're looking to have striked out, and you know what it's about now. Some of the discussion issues, this particular project did go through a mitigated negative declaration. It went out for a 30-day public review. After receiving numerous comments on the environmental document, staff did extend that time period an additional 10 days to allow the public to provide additional comment. And we have received numerous comments on the environmental document. Staff has reviewed it. We have stated in the staff report as well as the document we can mitigate the impacts to less than significant levels, so this project can be mitigated. But part of the discussion I would like to talk about that the public did as well as at NITRAC, and to allow the commission to deliberate. And again, after my presentation, if you want me to come back up to explain in more detail, I'll be more than happy to do so as well. Some of the visual simulations, there was concern about the scale and massing and materials, colors, what it's going to ultimately look like. So you'll see down at the bottom, this is the existing conditions. This is looking on North Lake Boulevard, what the hotel motels look like. This is on the lakeside, again, looking at the existing conditions. So up above is what's being proposed, how it is blending in. And part of this discussion, too, this will require a separate approval process through TRPA. I've been in direct consultation with Paul Nielsen, who's the project planner with TRPA. He has also gone through his process. He is now ready to proceed with his application and meets all the thresholds, TRPA conditions. He is waiting for the county to make our decision first before he proceeds any further at this point. But I do want to make that known. It does require a separate TRPA permit, their own evaluation and analysis as well. So we've been in concert with them to make sure we're on the same page. Some of the discussion issues, it does again talk about the height. 46 feet is allowed within this community plan area, that area plan. Proposal is approximately about 31, 32 feet for the project. There's single story commercial in the front, and with the amenity up above, the restaurant, and then the restaurant itself. This gives an orientation of the proposed residential building heights. So discussion of issues. What staff is recommending to the Planning Commission is also a variance to the parking lot design. You'll see two parking lots right here and here. So in the area plan, it does talk about a 10-foot setback from edge of travelway to the first parking space. This particular one is 13 feet to the end of travelway. This one is 7 feet. This is a continuation of Brockway Vista. This will be a connection onto North Lake Boulevard. So there is, because of the design and the area plan stating 20 feet, it needs a variance. So after staff review, you can see the lot, it does narrow up on this side, and the orientation of the property and looking at surrounding areas and looking especially at what's out there right now of having vehicles backing onto the sidewalk, we wanted to make sure that there's best management practices, there's designated parking spaces. When traffic is coming in here to come in, that they do see, the lot's full, they will continue on. So there is a variance to the parking lot standards. So we are looking for approval on that. The administrative review permit to allow the restaurant and associated outdoor dining, I did mention that, but that's what is here. Here's the outdoor seating, if that is part of the entitlements for this particular project. So the Tahoe Basin Area Plan, I will say the community at NITRAC, quite a few people showed up. There was a lot of discussion whether this project met the new area plan, and discussed about mixed use and what's the definition of mixed use. Is there a percentage? And reviewing the area plan and what we do have, staff looks at use. There's 3 commercial buildings that are out there. There's 10 residential. So it does meet the definition of what we consider mixed use. Now, the community, again, like I said, especially at NITRAC, as well as some of the members of NITRAC, was saying, is this the intent of what mixed use actually is? So I will bring that out there. Staff has reviewed this. We do consider this a mixed use project. There is discussion, too, about the area plan does not allow residences on North Lake Boulevard in our section of our code. They did propose commercial structures along North Lake Boulevard. All the access to these residential units are on Brockway Vista, so they are not accessing directly onto North Lake Boulevard. There is also, as part of the conditioning, which the applicant is obligated to construct, it is the multi-use trail. You'll see here in the red, it's in our area plan that has been adopted by our Board of Supervisors as well as TRPA. They will continue, like I said, between their project all the way over to Seacline, where there is a park. So compatibility of land uses, after staff review and stating, what exactly is here in relationship to surrounding. As you go down Brockway Vista, these are all residential units. And we do have, as mentioned, there's Debbie Langston's property where it is a residence too. So the proposed project basically is doing the improvements down Brockway Vista, including the multi-use trail, and providing the only access to residential units on both sides of Brockway Vista. So they're continuing more or less like an infill project to allow them to continue this residential use and then provide the commercial up towards North Lake Boulevard. Some of the key issues I know the commission as well as our board discuss, as well as it's a priority on staff's radar as well as employee housing. This particular project, we do in our Placer County general plan as well as in our area plan, we talk about providing employee housing. However, we do have to take at the baseline as well, how many full-time equivalent FTAs are there. There's 92 hotel motel rooms, so they set the baseline of how many full-time equivalent. Then we have to look at how many new full-time equivalent. So actually they do not require any employee housing based on our current code, how it's written today. Traffic was discussed. We did receive some information from Caltrans as part of the environmental document. Again, the environmental document covered all the issues there. It actually reduces the traffic counts that are there, and it actually reduces the number of curb cuts that are coming onto North Lake Boulevard from 3 to 2. And like I said, compatible land uses, and I'll tie in with the North Tahoe Regional Municipal Advisory Council as well. I will say there was a large discussion at NITRAC. The group discussed amongst themselves as well as the public coming up to them and discussing the project. What is mixed use? Is this the appropriate project that's before us? They also indicated as they were taking the vote, as I was there, they stated they unanimously vote that they vote no on all of the entitlements. However, there was discussion, and you should know as well, and I'll let the applicant explain a little bit more. Initially, when they did approach the county, there were some other projects they were proposing with us. One of them was actually here at the event center. They were looking at taking the lease agreement and then potentially doing maybe a project there, but that never went forward. So we couldn't include that as review or cumulative effect or anything of that nature. We did have a pre-development application come before the county across the street for 100 hotel motel units. Staff reviewed it, provided our requirements of checklist to provide that information back to the applicant. The applicant never came forward with that. And we're obligated to look at our applications, what we have in our system to say, okay, environmentally, what do we need to do? Why I'm bringing this up, NITRAC was very sensitive to that. They said they discussed among themselves, but they didn't vote to recommend anything. But I do want to say it was a very important part of their discussion, and what they wanted to make clear that the commission know is that there should be some kind of master plan for all these properties. But again, the owner, for staff level, we only have one application at this time. They talked about mixed use, I discussed, land use, compatibility. Some of the discussion, too, that came up, some of the public, they were on the Tahoe area plan update, and they quite adamantly said that this is not what the intent was initially, what they thought. But from staff's perspective, obviously, we reviewed all of the code requirements, the environmental review document, the parking standards, design, we talked to TRPA, the backshore, the height. It meets the requirements, what we see in the area plan, and therefore we are recommending approval of the project. And I do have the recommendation, but I will pass it over to the applicant if there's no questions.
Any questions? All right, thank you, Al.
Where's their app?
Please stand by.
Sorry for the delay. Good morning. My name is Brian Helm. I'm here on behalf of the property owner, David Boquillan, who's here with us this morning as well.
Excuse me for a minute, Brian. Can we get a little more volume, please? Or maybe a little closer to the mic,
Sure.
whatever works.
Sorry about that.
I want to make sure everybody's hearing you.
Brian Helm here on behalf of the property owner, David Boquillan, who's here with us as well. And I just want to start by thanking you for your time this morning, and then also thanking staff for their presentation. I'll keep my comments brief. We appreciate staff's review of the project and their recommendations. Kind of knowing some of the comments or some of the where a good part of the discussion will come, just wanted to preview some of the things that we went through as we looked at this the development of this project. So. Alan already talked about the location of the subject property. I think he also showed just what we looked at as kind of our surrounding area. So we have single family to the east and to the west on the south side of Brockway Vista. We actually do have a single family further to the west along Brockway or along Highway 28, and we have single family on the north side of Brockway Vista to the west. Along Highway 28, we have retail, and then across Highway 28 is also retail. So very much a residential zone with mixed-use commercial along the highway frontage and hotel, as Alan stated. I'll go ahead and fly through these, but Alan did show the photos. I mean, I think this is a condition it's fairly consistent across many of the parts of Highway 28, and it's why TRPA did their code revision, which is now 6 years on, and then also Placer County did their new area plan, which is looking to try and stimulate reinvestment in properties, which The Ferrari property, the Goldcrest property, and the Falcon property are all kind of past their usable life. They're in a condition where renovation is really not a viable alternative, either due to ceiling heights, due to mechanical, due to energy performance or structural performance. And so both the physical structure as well as the horizontal or the roads and walkways are one which are not performing to the needs of both the visitor, the public, or from the environmental perspective or TRPA's perspective with regards to scenic and water quality, and you can see from the condition of the roadways. I would also note that the existing condition is one which is as a hotel, there are no, quote unquote, public facing uses. There are hotel guest uses, which are the pools and the hotel rooms and the breakfast room. But there is no sort of public amenity or public access point that goes through the existing property. And it's one of the things that we were asked to address that we'll look at really quickly here in the future condition. So Alan mentioned it, just to be clear, because it came up a bunch. We have submitted our TRPA applications for the multifamily project review and an IEC, or the initial environmental checklist, and a scenic impact assessment, both along Highway 28 as well as from the lake. And as Alan mentioned, Paul Nielsen is our planner at TRPA. He's been through his process. He's satisfied that we're meeting their obligations and is waiting on Placer County at this point. I don't want to spend a bunch of time on this, but just to give context, I think we're the first to admit we didn't participate. We weren't here when the new area plan was written. And so we certainly have heard a lot of the comments from NITRAC. But as the property owner and then as the design team that was looking at it, really all we had to go off of were the zoning, the words in both planning code as well as the area plan. And so when we looked at both compliance with code, compliance with the plan area statement, but also we looked at it, we didn't want to just process an application that was an approved application that could never be built. We also necessarily look at feasibility, and I'll talk a little bit about that. So we looked at both the Kings Beach Vision Plan and we looked at both the North Tahoe East Area Plan with the change to this mixed use. And so there's no real definition of mixed use. We did our best to kind of interpret that and then relied on staff to kind of work with us on compliance to that, both the area plan as well as the zoning. And so you see the proposed mix of uses, which is multifamily dwelling, retail and eating and drinking places, retail sales, and sort of a recreational facility. And then the last piece from a use perspective is this was a standalone application. We service all our own parking needs. We generate our parking needs and we service our parking needs on site. And we don't rely on any other properties for operations. So just important to note that this is a standalone project. From a planning constraint, I don't know why I did this build, so I'll just put them all up there. Oops. We really, this site, and whether it's us as owners or a new set of owners that comes in, we have our zoning constraints, we have our planning area constraints, but then we also have both sort of feasibility constraints and we have geometric constraints of the site as we look to really figure out what can go on the property. And I know that there's a lot of wish lists out there, particularly as we're pretty long in the tooth of 6 years with TRPA and 3 years with the new area plan. A new hotel application has not come forward. Really not many applications have come forward, and that's because it is a difficult environment, both from a regulatory perspective, but also from a project feasibility and a cost to build and an ability to get projects done perspective. So from a kind of a geometric perspective, the constraints that we have or any other developer would have on the site is that don't have a ton of depth to the site, and then we're bisected by a 40-foot right-of-way, which is Brockway Vista. And so it separates the site into two kind of distinct chunks, and then a good portion of the lower chunk is kind of taken up by TRPA's backshore requirements. And so it really limits our ability to do anything of scale along the south side of Brockway Vista, and forces most of the code or the the building to the north side of Brockway Vista. So if we were to look at this in a hotel context, we really think that our key yield in a sort of new facility is limited to the north side of Brockway Vista, and is probably around 30 to 40 keys that we're able to obtain there, and that those are then fronting to a 10-foot multi-use path as well as a 22-foot curb and gutter road. And so it really limits our ability to then both park and create that opportunity or that development footprint. And the reason that, you say, why should I care about whether it's 40 units or 100 units? I think one of the real Achilles heel of hospitality product in this area is that because of it, they're all pretty small, they're 20 to 40 keys, that then limits their ability to really attract shoulder season business and really get the occupancy that's necessary. And so that kind of dovetails over to our feasibility issue, where the smaller properties drive higher cost per key. So we end up with a cost per hotel room that's north of $600,000 a hotel room to build. And then we can't really support the sort of year-round business that's necessary, and our average daily rate that's required is north of $400, and our occupancy becomes unachievable. And so, again, I don't kind of say that to gain sympathy or to kind of make excuses for the program, just to really kind of illustrate the decision-making that went into why we're proposing what we're proposing here. It wasn't to sort of thumb our noses at people's wants and desires for a hospitality product here. It's just to kind of raise our hands and say, we've looked at these items because of the bisection of the property. It really kind of ruled it out from a feasibility perspective from us fairly early on, and why, as Alan mentioned, we submitted our pre-development application for a hotel property on the mountainside where we had a much larger footprint and the ability to kind of garner a larger key count. So happy to kind of go into some of that discussion in questions, but just wanted to kind of provide that. I think the other challenge that comes from the site is because Brockway Vista is really unimproved. It's a dirt road with a tree that goes through the middle of it. The water system is in ill repair. The sewer system is long in the tooth. So when an application comes forward on this site, the expectation of the surrounding municipalities, the utility providers, there's a huge list of asks that all of a sudden come out on this project. So we've been asked to do full curb and gutter, full BMP and stormwater improvements, not just within our project area, but all the way to C-Cline because of the condition of C-Cline, a full replacement of all of the water meters along Brockway Vista, an undergrounding of the overhead utilities, a construction of a 10-foot multi-use path from C-Cline all the way to the end of the property, and then an additional connection from 28 to the beach. And so all of that stuff's somewhere around $2 million, and it came very, very early on in the process. And so any application that kind of starts to touch Brockway Vista generates a lot of mitigation requirements. And they're part of our application. We think they're part of the benefit of the project, but they're part of the hurdle to go over in terms of redeveloping this site. And then we talked about sort of the removal of the sort of the scenic blight on 28 as well as from the lake. And there's a coverage reduction and the creation of the boardwalk on this one. And then that's just the program. And I'll probably just leave my comments there. I just wanted to kind of preview some of the question and answer topics to come forward. Again, we're real appreciative of Placer County and Placer County staff. We look forward to the discussion, and we look forward to hopefully having an opportunity to kind of reinvest in this property and reinvest in the community. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Lauren, any questions of the applicant? All right. Okay, if we ready, we'll open this up to public comment. Again, we'll limit comment time to 3 minutes. There's a timer going. When the yellow light hits, that's your 1 minute warning to kind of wrap up your thoughts and finish things up.
Understand. My name is Megan Chalimi. I've represented the Kings Beach community at Seat 1 of the North Tahoe Regional Advisory Council since 2009. My fellow NETRAC representatives know me as a longtime area plan supporter, defender, and cheerleader. Look at the photo on page 11 of the area plan. That's my husband and I at one of the first planning meetings. At the meeting last Thursday, NETRAC, representing the North Shore community from Brockway to Tahoma, voted unanimously 6-0 to recommend denial of the La Lima Lakeside Development Project. This is only the second NETRAC project denial I've seen in 10 years. NETRAC representatives should be here. Very few people can attend a mid-morning weekday meeting. At Thursday's meeting, 10 people spoke against the project. One of the speakers was the North Tahoe Business Association director, who stated this was the wrong project for the site. Another was the Peak 10 condo developer, who also agreed. More residents would have spoken, but left due to the lateness of the hour. The staff report contains almost 100 pages of comments and questions from the community. Some of these letters were from individuals with sizable investments in Kings Beach and from members of the Business Association's Economic Vitality Center. This does not fit discretionary use. It's incompatible with the 2017 Tahoe Basin Area Plan and the Kings Beach Vision. It nullifies the community plan, update teams, and community's efforts. Here's 4 reasons why. First, land use. The guiding policies unanimously voted by the team at the very beginning was that residents and visitors should be able to enjoy the lake without private residences and associations prohibiting access or fences and walls blocking visibility. Page 136, implementing regulations, states, new single-family and secondary residences are not allowed along North Lake Boulevard. The county says single-family residents are allowable facing the lake. The community team understood that the prohibition extended from North Lake Boulevard through to the lake's edge. Second, mixed use. Regulations, page 132, states what mixed use is for the Lakeside Town Center. Tourist accommodation is mentioned, but not SFRs. Gentlemen, I'm sorry, I have 3 broken ribs. I suffered an accident 2 weeks ago, and so I'm having trouble breathing. Look at the vision plan. Pages 32, 34 mention a mix of uses, updated tourist accommodations, workforce housing, and functional commercial. Mixed uses in the area plan implementing regulations, page 11, the matrices on pages 132 to 139, and throughout volume 1, particularly pages 97 to 98, page 103, and finally, the land use policies on pages 120 to 121 for mixed use in the town center. Third, balance. The county maintains the Lakeside project is balanced mixed use with 10% retail. Yet, this project is a ratio of almost 10 to 1 in favor of single-family residential. Run the MND numbers. The residential structures total 32,170 square feet. Retail is only 3,645 square feet. I've spent hours studying the area plan. There are no percentages on what constitutes the right balance of residential to retail.
Excuse me, we are.
4.
We're past the time limit here, so if we could wrap things up, I would appreciate it.
All righty. This project is no benefit to the community. What's going to be the impact on our businesses if the commercial cores, retailers, and businesses, when we have nothing but wall-to-wall $1 million condominiums on the lakeside? It will change Kings Beach's unique character, and it also sets the tone for future development. What the Kings Beach community wants is first the boardwalk or promenade from Sea-Klein to the Peak 10 condos, more open view sheds and spaces for community gatherings. What about the amenity building? Why not build a gym that is open to the community or make the restaurant 2 stories? Finally, the town center redevelopment is needed, but it has to be a properly balanced mixed-use project with the proper environmental protections and public access by residents and visitors.
All right,
I appreciate your consideration. Thank you, Commissioner
you.
Moss.
Appreciate it. Can I see by a show of hands how many people want to speak about this project? All right, probably not enough that we need to worry about a sign-up sheet then. Okay. Let's keep this going. If we could pay a little closer attention to the buzzer, so I don't have to feel like I'm being rude and cutting people off, but I do want to kind of keep this moving.
Thank you for the suggestion. We will definitely do that. Ellie Waller, North Tahoe West Area Plan Team member, also participated in the Kings Beach visioning efforts. I'd first like to thank Sue today for helping me, her kind and efficient ways of getting me my information. I appreciate it and wanted you to know that. What has prohibited the applicant from doing demolition of the unsightly buildings? He's had the property for a long time. These things need to happen sooner than later in a lot of these projects. I've been before the Board of Supervisors on several of them, as well as the Planning Commission. Demolition can happen. It doesn't need to sit unsightly. Detailed news today, removal of item 53. A very clarifying discussion needs to happen on each and every one of those items. It is a big condition, and it does violate some of the area plan requests and process to have public access. Of course, the utility districts need the area, so on and so forth. The basing the FTEs, of full-time equivalent employees, on the entire project, but a submittal for a standalone. There's something wrong with allowing that to go through as a mitigation. If you're not going to do the whole project as a master plan or phasing, then the FTEs should stand alone. Why wasn't there more meetings after the August 28th release of this new design? The public did not really get to weigh in before any of the agency or boards, because the mitigated negative deck, even though we got 10 extra days, didn't go before the NITRAC before this. So we didn't get our public right to speak before the recommending body to you. Today I'm asking that you request staff Alan Bruce ask for a continuance based on the recusal issue that one way or another I believe he didn't need to recuse himself, and actually looking at item 18 removal. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today.
Okay, here's a picture of the road, if anybody's not ever set foot on the road. Are you? My name's Carolyn Mermel. I'm writing in reference to Brockway Vista Avenue. Our residence built in our house as a residence in 1934, before the Crown was even there. We are on the understanding that the regional plan is tracking for a paved road and bike trail or sidewalk going from Highway 28 through Brockway Vista to Sea-Klein Street back to Highway 28. We understand that the intention for the current road is to be paved with utilities go underground, the road to be open to access to Highway 28 through the La Lima project. We understand that the group is paying for this part of proposal and development of the area they purchased. My husband and I have been at the lake since 1975 and on Brockway Vista Avenue for 33 years. We'd like to raise a couple of concerns and points we have for this plan. The road's now busier than ever since the years we've lived there. Having this paved would potentially make a positive approach to our house and conservation to the lake. However, considerable concerns. Our first is around parking and congestion. Please see below the photos of a typical Saturday on a street where the road currently is. Our concern is without parking restrictions for non-residents, this will cause gridlock and issues on the street. As a resident, I would like to know that even with parking restrictions, who and how will this policed? We understand that the people are looking for beach access, and by already directing traffic and pedestrians through our street, there will be access issues for us as residents. The street is not currently wide enough for us to urge the consultation with the residents and how this proposal goes ahead. To have parking on a two-way road plus a bike trail and or a sidewalk access to all residences, in our estimation, would be very difficult. Please visit the street to see how the street is, and I also urge you to visit the street to see how we live. By encouraging traffic through this area, we've seen the opposite Highway 28, how heavy traffic will do a cut-through through our street. To try to avoid Highway 28, it will be Highway 28 on our street after that. Our fear is that it's been a relatively safe street will be overcrowded with cars and pedestrians, and there's a strong likelihood of accidents. With opening up a road, this will create security issues for the residents. We've already had previous theft, and by allowing people to park and have more people there, we have more open for problems with us. To put a bike path there seems somewhat wasteful. In this project, we would question what benefit would be having a bike trail running past residential houses. There's already a bike path in the main road, so that would be what would the purpose to be to change that. It would be better to have current bike path developed, which would in turn support our local businesses, which very dearly need us, to have that up there. In conclusion, we do not feel that there's any good reason for the proposal. There are no benefits of this, and that the residents who have to accept the consequences of this project. We urge that you have closer consultation takes place, including all parties and especially we as residents. Thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, staff, and council. My name is Greg Lean. I'm an attorney from Tahoe City, and I represent the Langston family. Debbie Langston is here today. She owns the house that's immediately to the east of this development and probably the most impacted by the development. But I stepped to the podium today to say that thanks to your staff, we've worked closely with Alan and others, and closely with Paul Nielsen down at TRPA and the applicant as well. And we have come up with a package of mitigations that include the design, configuration, and location of the current proposal, including but not limited to the residents immediately adjacent that was having the biggest impact. And as Alan alluded to, we've got one more piece to go, which is the abandonment that should be done hopefully in the next couple of weeks and get before the Board of Supervisors. So on that basis, we want to say thank you to the staff, to the applicant, and all of the others that have worked with us on this, and we have no objection to this project. Although we do want to join the applicant in raising concern about condition 53I. That again is the condition that talks about dedication of a 15-foot strip. In my humble judgment, I was a little bit surprised to see that. I thought that had gone away. I don't know when it reappeared again. But it was always my initial impression that this is an exaction and dedication that is beyond that which is permissible. We have incorporated into this design. The applicant has worked closely with the staff. There's now that 15-foot, or is it 20 feet? It's a 20-foot pathway now for public use along that same thing, just like in I'll just raise this for the benefit of council, just like in the Nolan case, you know, where you've got to have some nexus here. And if east to west lateral movement of the public is the thing that we need to watch out for, that's already more than mitigated by the presence of the current pathway. So I just want to emphasize that and hope that you may reconsider that request of the applicant, and I know the applicant's already objected, but we just want to add our own voice to that. And again, a big thank you to your staff and the applicant for working with us on this. Thank you.
Good morning. First my name is Jack Cholini. First I have about 20 pages of petitions which read, I oppose the proposal to build 10 lakefront condominiums on the Ferrari Crown Motel and Falcon Lodge sites in Kings Beach. And I would like to submit these right now for this lady right here.
We have them.
You have them. Okay. Well, I have new ones I picked up today. But anyway, I want to respond to some of the comments I heard from the people today. I had a prepared speech, but I think I'd rather say what I want to say. I heard today that this is mixed use because it's a 10-to-3 ratio. My first question is, where does that amenity center count in that ratio of 10-to-3? Well, that's my first. It was very important because where does that amenity center fall into the 10-to-3 ratio? Does anybody know? Okay, let me point out to you that this statistically is a 90% residential type project, meaning 90% of the count of the total square footage is residential. To me, that's a 9-to-1, 10%. There is no 10-to-3, which is 30%. In square footage, this is 9-to-1. A complete lopsided count for the residential compared to commercial. So as I was preparing my prepared speech that I talked about, I wanted to say, what are the standards for something like this? What do lenders say about loaning money to people who have mixed-use projects? What are their ratios? And what I found was this. According to Energy Star Portfolio Management Glossary, a program run by the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency and U.S. Government of Energy, mixed-use property refers to buildings that contain a variety of commercial and/or residential uses, where no individual use accounts for more than 51% of the property, 51%. So I looked around for lenders. Their criteria is 50%. So I want to ask you where the amenity centers would fall into that count, because you're going to skew even a higher number than 90%. And I'd also like to point out to you that this is clearly a residential, not mixed-use plan based upon the square footage of the applicant's proposal. So I think that's what I wanted to call to your attention. I don't know where I'm in the count. Perfect. Thank you.
Well done. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Teresa Mae Duggan. I've lived here since 1977. I served as a staff person at Pathways 2007. I participated in the Vision charrette in 2013 and as a member of the North Tahoe East team. I even have my name tag here. In August 2006, Pathways process released a vision summary. It's clear we want to reinvest in existing town centers and realize environmental gains. Our town centers were envisioned as mixed-use places with visitor accommodations, retail services, and recreation activities. We defined achievable benefits with principles and concepts in support of a triple bottom line. Provide workforce housing, social benefits, provide workforce housing, maintain a middle class, and add gathering spaces. Environmentally, we saw improved water and air quality, add green buildings, and restore a degraded ecosystem. The environmental benefits included expanding visitor accommodation and economic diversification. During the Kings Beach charrette, our ideas were recorded when we said, keep it funky. We're a recreation community, and it's about the people of Kings Beach. And specifically where the process is located, we asked Brockway Vista remain or become a green street. We wanted a promenade along the beach. We wanted to create a lakefront or waterfront destination to suit a wide range of visitor expectations. We wanted to protect lake and ridgeline views through thoughtful site design, specifically enhance overnight accommodations to attract longer visitor stays. Now let's look at the basin plan. Released with great fanfare in January 2017. I read the document with great anticipation. Our vision, principles, and concepts put into writing. It's a dense, technical tome, as it should be, but it also allows for interpretation. On page 44, for example, under Scenic Resources, Policy P5 states, implement site and building design standards to protect and enhance scenic views. Page 68, require variation in building heights. Policy P4, protect and enhance existing scenic views and vistas. The wall of shoebox condos does not support the spirit of the plan. We have to work with the developer. We want something there. We would love to see a big, like a lakeside hotel, whatever. We know that our old hotels are blighted. They're environmentally impactful. The coming and goings with the, I spent 2.5 years on the plan team. Can I have another minute? Okay. At the bottom, the current pattern of visitors staying outside the basin and driving in, we understand is environmentally and economically impactful. There's land use imbalance of lodging compared to visitation levels and other uses. We need lodging. There are many examples showing the proposal doesn't meet the spirit of the plan. We were promised a hotel. Some ideas might include Sunnyside Light, a mini Hyatt, or even a Lakeside Ritz-Carlton. We're ready for grand new gathering space that includes lodging, restaurants, and bars. Please allow the applicants to return with a proposal that honors the community vision and the basin area plan. It can and must be done. Thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners. Ann Nichols, North Tahoe Preservation Alliance, and a member of the Kings Beach Community Plan Team East. The danger about not doing a master plan, because if there's two parcels, there's one across the street and there's one on the lake. So if it isn't a master plan, how do we know, will the use across the street, will they require lakefront access? This 5-foot strip on the eastern side of this site on the lakeside doesn't go to the lake. Will they need, to make it a feasible site, a real hotel, what kind of parking and traffic and circulation, congestion, what'll happen to the 92 TAUs? Are they going to stay here or are they going to go to Homewood like the ones at the Tahoe Inn did? Will we lose that? So we don't know. There's all these questions that we don't have answers for because they didn't do a cohesive plan. It's not that, they had one to begin with, but then now they've dropped it. It's just, I'm sure they found it difficult. This is the low-hanging fruit. I'm a realtor for 45 years. The condo sales, lakefront condos. This is the jewel, as the neighbor had said at the NITRAC meeting, the jewel of Kings Beach. It's the best site we have. It's the last site we have that's of any size where we could actually have lodging. And this is a discretional use that you're going to approve. So you don't have to do it. They could go back, come back with a plan, answer these questions. Do we need employee housing for the use you're going to have across the street? So, and eliminating 53, that's 11 items, easements and dedications, which is, lake access. These are important issues. So you can't just, willy-nilly, they want you to eliminate them. So, and what are the mitigations? I don't really see what they are. Anyway, this is a big deal. Have them do it right and not go for the easy condo, which will be the precedent for the rest of Kings Beach. Thank you.
We need two mics because we're almost the same size. Good morning. My name is Tom Gordon. This is my wife, Lori Gordon. We are owners of 8096 Brockway Vista. We are the closest residents on the beach side to Seacline. My wife is here representing her cousins, part of the family, who own 8106 Brockway, the home adjacent to it. So we represent two of the four residences there. We've never met the developers, so we, as a matter of fact, I just looked at all the information, 212 pages yesterday, so if I don't get all my information exactly correct, run with me just a little bit. Our house, the cabin that we have right now, the home, the structure there, was built in 1929. We have 5 generations now that are visiting the home, and we continue that way, and the property next door is in the same mode. We are grandchildren, and we have our grandchildren here that are there now. So we've been a part of Kings Beach for a long time in many ways. We've looked at the recent development. From our perspective, we welcome the single-family home development. We like what we see. It's not necessarily perfect in relationship with our taste, but we welcome that. We also welcome, obviously, improvement in all of the area. We like to see, of course, things be remodeled and have some measure of improvement to beautify the area. I'm a civil engineer by training and have had my own construction business, so I'm relatively familiar with what I've seen on these plans. I understand they're preliminary. We have 2 concerns, and I spoke to the advisory committee several years ago when the proposal was to have a lakefront bike path and walkway. I noted that given the geology or the topography there, that pathway would be 18 inches underwater, which it currently would be. And the committee recognized that and is now proposing the bike path and walkway on Brockway Vista. It is a very narrow lane. You've seen from some of the pictures, and you can walk 200, 300 yards that way and see exactly so. With the 20-foot roadway and the walkway, it would be quite tight. We are concerned when you combine paths and bikeways, with which we're familiar, you increase risk. We have lots of kids under 6, 7, 8 years old. We would recommend that you leave the bike pathway on Highway 28, and if the agencies here that are very concerned and interested in having that connect up, bring it down right through the existing driveway right here and have it link up with the beach and traverse however you wish. There is no advantage visual to having it on our roadway. It just increases the tightness and the risk as far as we can see. May I have just a moment more?
There's 2 of you there. We'll give you a couple more.
Good. Thank you so much. We are also a little bit concerned about now the thoroughfare. In essence, Brockway Vista is a cul-de-sac at this point, and we understand fire concerns and so forth and equipment mobility. But encouraging cars to come off of Highway 28 in the hopes of finding beach parking. By the way, this new 20-foot wide roadway and bike path, the 10 feet right there, eliminates all public parking. There is none more to be had, and Seacline is quite busy as it is right now. By encouraging people who are coming westbound, there's going to be a hang-up on 28 with people wanting to turn left with a road configuration as it is now, and then when people are not able to find parking or do what they want to do, you're now going to have more emerging traffic trying to feed back onto 28. So you have, in essence, will have created another congestion point with that private roadway that is there. A couple other things, just to note, I don't know where these fit in. Again, I just reviewed 200 pages yesterday, so I'm sorry. We'd like a clarification at some point on who will be responsible for the maintenance of the stretch of improvement on Brockway Vista outside the development area. And also I would suggest and recommend that you consider a different location for the infiltration system in front of driveways and access because you can create a saturation point there that is not functional. Minor points down in the second and third category, but mostly the bikeway pathway needs to remain on Highway 28 and consider a removal or an adjustment of the new private roadway. Thank you very much.
Anyone else? got one, I'm sorry.
Hi, Billy Johnson. And normally I wouldn't do this, but I think we need a little bit more looking at this project. My background has been both federally and in local government in civil engineering, land surveying, public works inspection, and then afterwards privately real estate developer, broker, mortgage financer, and have done numerous projects in the area and been lucky enough to win an award for commercial redevelopment here. I guess what I'd like to say is I look at this project and I think it needs more TRPA review for the following reasons. You know, if you look at section 13.7.3A2 of the TRPA code, all development within the shore zone requires TRPA review. The shore zone includes near fore and back shores of Lake Tahoe, and the submitted vesting tentative map does not provide enough information for an adequate review of the proposed project. Further information for project review would include existing plans, land capability, and land coverage. Because this information is omitted, it cannot be concluded that the project's within the shore zone. Sheet 4 of the plans references Lake Tahoe high water elevation of 6,232.3 on NAVD88 datum. The Lake Tahoe high water elevation is 6,229.1, or a difference of plus 3.2 feet. While there's no really published equation for the NAVD88 Lake Tahoe datum, there has been an observed relationship of 1.7 to 1.8 feet. So the proposed project should clarify to why the high water elevation is the difference of this. Additionally, prior land capability coverage work by TRPA on the Lake Tahoe datum introduces additional challenges in reviewing the proposed project. Review of the Goldcrest LCV and Ferrari LCV PL 2007-069 shows backshore boundary establishments based upslope and wave run up with the existing contours. Those existing contours show fall and slope differently than the existing contours on the proposed plan. The backshore boundary cannot be confirmed from the information provided, and as a result, the proposed project could conflict with the backshore. Sheet 2 of the proposed plan shows a dedication by the project to allow for a drivable sidewalk. Sheet 4 of the proposed plan shows the existing property line and what appears to be an unlabeled new property line with curb and gutter that can be assumed to represent a relinquishment of public property to La Lima. This relinquishment is not shown on Sheet 2. The shift, dedication, or relinquishment allows the proposed homes to be pushed as far north as possible to avoid conflict with the backshore zone. Interestingly, prior public comment and outreach by TRPA during the regional plan update and Placer County during Kings Beach Vision Plan and Area Plan identified the portion of Brockway Vista for a boardwalk promenade that is likely the reason for the inclusion of a drivable sidewalk. This is interesting because Placer County contacted with Nichols Engineering, and this was after $150,000 from DOT funds was spent for capital improvements back on 9/2014 for infrastructure on boardwalk and back in the planning and capable completion, but we've never seen it. And basically, you know, they were looking for other funds, but the boardwalk project supports the mission statement in North Tahoe and community business throughout enhancement of the economic and recreational climate. So I guess TRPA has a vested interest in this walkability, bike mobility, and recreation. So the Placer County MDD for the project does not include the necessary TRPA findings required to prove any project and demonstrate compliance with TRPA Code of Ordinances. By issuing a conditional use permit without review of required project findings, how is the public assured of compliance with TRPA Code without a concurrent project review by TRPA? The dedication and possible relinquishments representing the transfer of coverage for streets and roads. In this project case, there may be a transfer of coverage in and out of sensitive lands, but that cannot be identified or reviewed with the information submitted. TRPA review and approval is required for linear public facilities, which would include the new road alignment shown in the vesting tentative map. And it's quite possible that other submittals and project reviews are forthcoming, so we'd sure like to see it. But Kings Beach is a tourist town. It does not have manufacturing, high-tech, or any other industry. It needs a nice hotel on the beach to maintain the economic vitality, as shown on the community and vision plans. So I hope you would consider all that, besides the 160 plus signatures I was shocked to read today that are against the project. So it's pretty interesting what the community is looking for and what they saw in the vision plan and community plan. So thanks.
All right, is there anyone else? All right.
Hi, my name's Todd Davidson. I developed the building next door, Peak 10, known as Tahoe Beachfront Residences. So we replaced sun sand. We were before you a couple years ago. Got approval. And this is very close. We're in the picture there. I think it's a little bit different circumstance. I think this is it's a difficult proposal in many ways. There's been a long history of the vision plan, the community plan. I think this doesn't look at all the alternatives that are possible. I appreciate that the applicant has tried to fit this in, but in doing so, they're not looking at the other side of the property as well. You've heard that. You've heard a lot of public comment about that. A lot of people are against it. I think this is a crown jewel of Kings Beach, as you've heard. As was just said, one of the big public aspects to it that would be best is some type of trail that's linking other trails and beachfront access to for the community. I don't think a multi-use trail that incorporates or uses the same Brockway Vista corridor, trading some land that Placer County owns and then trading a piece so that they can have their beachfront, the houses on the front side, is probably in the best interest. I don't know that I would challenge. I don't think if you look at other communities or if you look from a community standpoint, that having a trail not visible or on the lakefront is what the community looks for. So from that point of view, I think this is challenged. I think the low density is fine, but as I said, when you're not using the other side of the property, you've kind of limited your choices, and I don't think that limitation has to be there. I've been asked, are there other ways to look at this? And I think there are. I don't think it's that difficult to do so. And there are tons of strategic planners and people, consultants that can do that as well. So I hope you look at those issues. Thanks.
Okay, anyone else? Microphone on here.
Hope I don't start coughing. I'm Paul Now Jr. I own Lake Tahoe Appraisers, and I've appraised a lot more commercial and industrial real estate all around this lake than by far any other appraiser. And I've looked at this plan. I spoke a week ago or whenever that NITRAC meeting was. This plan doesn't come anywhere close to representing the highest and best use of this property. It violates a lot of the time, money, and emotion that's been spent on the planning in the Kings Beach commercial core area. And I think that the highest and best use is some kind of a hotel operation, like a Marriott, Roadway Inn, Sheraton, something. And they haven't presented any creativity in terms of parking. Joe Boucher, local excavator, claims that they can go down 6 feet below the grade of the highway. Theoretically, I don't see why you couldn't have just about an entire level of parking with a concrete post and beam structure, maximizing the height that TRPA allowed and increased. Larry, you remember, several years ago. And I heard the developers talk in terms of parking you know, that's something that could be addressed. The occupancy and the economics, if you look at Sunnyside Resort, they've had a high occupancy because they had a modern motel. And their occupancy was above 60% when I appraised Sunnyside Resort 20-some years ago. The Lake of the Sky in Tahoe City probably has above 60% now that they remodeled it. So I don't buy their argument on the economics of it that it won't pencil, because if they got creative, like I said, with a level of parking and then a structure above it, you could have one level of retail or other types of jewelry stores, whatever, on the first level, and a couple floors of hotel units. So, you know, the long and short of this is that it doesn't come near to representing the highest and best use of what I consider the marquee property in the Kings Beach commercial core area. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Going once? All right. Looks like we're all through then with public comment. We'll close that and bring it back. Did you? I was gonna check with Alan, see if he had. I know you were taking lots of notes, and that. Is there items you would like to address, and then we'll give the developer a chance. Respond to any of the comments. Well, I was gonna see if staff wanted to go first, and if not, we'll get the developer up also.
I can respond to some of the questions, especially had in detail. Phil Johnson was mentioning about TRPA and the shore zone. The project came in about microphone. You're not on. Oh, there. No, it's on. Yeah, it was what Bill Johnson was bringing up about TRPA. It is there's two approvals. Placer County is required to look at it and make their decision, the Planning Commission. And then TRPA is Paul Nielsen. So the project, when I started analyzing it, that's the first thing I did is check base with TRPA to see what they have in their area plan, is the water level, as well as the scenic, and then find out from there. It did delay the project. Actually, the applicant had to go back a few times and verify some additional information, push back some of the units because of the shore zone. And county staff, because we rely on TRPA on their analysis on the LCV, which is the land capability verification, they review that section, and that's why you don't see it on the tentative map, because TRPA will approve that specifically for the backshore. We review it for the civils as well as the map. So that's why you're not seeing parts of that there. But we rely on TRPA, and TRPA, when my contact with them, it's meeting their requirements. The other thing is, I know it keeps coming up, is the across the street, the mountainside development. Like I mentioned before in the presentation, but I do want to say it again since it's come up a few times. We don't have an application in the county. We did have a pre-development application, but not an application for land development there at that location. Mixed use, Jack was mentioning as well, the percentage. In our area plan, we do not have a floor area ratio defining what defines mixed use. You got to have certain percentage residential, certain percentage commercial. Planning looks at land use. And like I mentioned in my presentation, there are 3 commercial buildings there. They are proposing 3 different commercial uses along the highway as well as the restaurant. And they have residential that's part of it too. We govern, when I talk to TRPA, we look at the coverage, we look at parking. That dictates a lot what you can do on the site, setbacks, height, those kind of requirements. So I do, in case there is discussion on mixed use, where staff is at this point, this meets the definition of mixed use. Those are the key things. If there's anything I need to go in more detail, I'll be more than happy to. But if Brian and the applicant wants to talk a little bit more too, it's up to them. About the rest of the commission, the condition that we've been talking about that's in question? Yes. 53I. I'll let Phil maybe. It's on again? I'll let Phil talk a little bit more, but the county is looking for public access. It is in our plan, as mentioned in the slide. Maybe I can go. Oh, actually, do you have the county one? Okay, when he's doing that, in the new area plan, it does talk about a multi-use trail. It does talk about a multi-use trail. And we've been talking quite a bit internally where to put this, and the Brockway Vista was the most feasible. We do look at the lakeside. There was a lot of discussion with the public to have some kind of access along the beach and to designate it. So we want to keep that option open for the county to allow that opportunity as time goes on to connect over on the beach side to Seacline. Let's see if I can find it here real quick. Oops. And another key component, which staff does as well, we look at the terminology as well as in our area plan. I did a lot of consultation with state parks, the Conservancy. They're in their general plan update as well. So how do we, the county, when we're doing projects, how do we tie into theirs? And part of that is we looked at initially, we were looking at a tie-in because they have a promenade that's over in this location that eventually they're going to build. They're going to need funding and whatnot. So that's where our multi-use trail came in requirement, because we'll be looking for this link that'll be between these two sides to connect it. It'll be designated to the public, and our hope is to have it open year-round because it'll be a hard site improved. But the terminology for the mixed use, because of funding sources and whatnot, we have to make sure that that's conditioned in our report there. But the lakeside, again, it only includes the project. So here we have an opportunity with an application. We can condition it through the subdivision map to state we want to have additional easements on this property for future benefit to the public. As eventually other things start coming online, if there's improvements in master plan on Seacline Park, which is right over in here, which is open to the public, that there would be a connection that would bring it completely around up to this location. So that's why staff is recommending that leave that condition there, the 15-foot wide easement that would be there, and then a future development that the county would have to do the improvements, but we want that easement. Thank you. Any other questions? All right. Would the applicant like to get up and respond also? I'm sorry, the public comment portion's been closed off here, so now we're just trying to get this taken care of.
So real quick on the topic of the easement, I think our comment was rooted in just kind of the history of the application. When we first came in, we delayed our application by about 6 months while we waited for the county to sort of go from the area plan process, which included the request for, or the vision of this multi-use path, to provide us with guidance as to where they wanted that path. The initial guidance we received from the county was to put it along the beach in front of the project. So our original application had the path in front of the project, between the project and the water. As we kind of moved through review over about a year, they came back and said, we've changed our mind. We want that to go through Brockway Vista. So we redid our application. We moved all of the things around to then put the path along Brockway Vista. So we've just kind of been along for the ride on that one. And so the reason for the request on 53I was just we had provided the easement in our original tentative map when the request was for it along the beach. When it was requested to move to Brockway Vista, we just simply asked, well, we thought it wasn't necessary anymore because we're providing the multi-use path in the desired location that will hook up to the ultimate path that'll come from this area now. So that was the sort of the background on that request.
just sort of a general comment, if I may. I think I've sat through a number of charrettes planning processes. I did not participate in the Kings Beach one, but I love that process. It's a lot of fun. You get to have your sticky notes and you put them all over the boards, and there's no bad ideas, and there's sort of this distillation of all the visions and dreams and hopes of what people would like to do. And usually a great artist is involved in that process, and you get to draw lots of great pictures and plans. And it's a very fun process. It gets a lot of great ideas out. It gets a lot of the intent and spirit. And so I understand the passion and commitment to that process. When it comes to submitting an actual project application, we don't really get to have all of the pieces of candy. We have to have some vegetables along the way too. And so we do look at feasibility. We really do. And I know not everybody, says, well, I don't believe your feasibility study, but we operate a number of restaurants in the area. We operate golf courses in the area. We operate fitness facilities in the area. So we understand the seasonality of this community. We understand the cost of building homes. We understand the cost of building commercial buildings, hotels in this area. And we took an honest look at what we could achieve in that vision. And so we were able to achieve the public restaurant. We were able to achieve sort of the east-west and the north-south connection to the beach along Highway 28. We were able to achieve the mixed-use piece. We weren't able to achieve the hotel on this piece. And a big part of that is not just the economic feasibility, but we have a 40-foot roadway that runs through the middle of this property. And so, we get challenged a lot on the creativity of the design. We have a huge constraining variable that fits the site. And I get that from a 50,000-foot view that it is this great property. It's got a huge but in it, and that is this Brockway Vista that runs through the middle really challenges the ability to do a really thoughtful hotel in this, and that's why the pre-development application that we had originally submitted looked at sort of a larger density across the street. And so, that's not meant to offend anyone. That's not meant to kind of shortchange that planning process. Like I said, I love that process. But when we submit an application, it's meant to be one that is feasible to actually build out, but it's also meant to be one that complies with the uses that were put in the area plan. And there is a tourist town center designation, and we didn't get that. And so we thought that allowed for, and we think that allows for residential with a thoughtful amount of commercial to go there. As it relates to the commercial, we kind of balance the site out at the total footprint of the design. So the full frontage along Highway 28 is commercial. The frontage along Brockway Vista has that residential component. And I would say that when you look at Kings Beach today, you're getting about $1 to $2 a square foot for retail. So retail doesn't really have a lot of opportunity for success. It really is amenity to the build out of the project. And then I think I touched on it, but just to reiterate, we are providing that sort of north-south connection from 28 to the beach. It does go to the beach. It kind of comes out at a kitty corner, but it comes to where the beach starts at the CTC land. And then beyond that, I'm just happy to answer any questions that you've got. I probably didn't address all the comments, but I'm happy to answer any questions that you have.
Thank you. Questions?
Yeah, let me see. Looking at the map, these are small lots. I guess I'm a little confused because these are individual residences, or are they, what do you mean by condos? Like 2 levels where they're rented, or what?
Yeah, condos isn't a term that we use. We use multifamily because that's the designation that we use under zoning, but they'll be either townhomes or standalone structures. Under TRPA designation, because it's a planned development, that's considered multifamily residential. So we wouldn't call them condos, we'd call them townhomes.
Okay, townhomes. And it appears that they're going to be around 1,400 square feet. Is that correct?
I think our average square foot, they range from 2,600 to 3,000.
Looks like most of the lots are
so they're 2 stories.
2 to 3,000 range.
Yeah, and they're 2-story structures. So you end up with about a 1,500 square foot footprint within a planned development. So it's one large HOA parcel that has postage stamp lots within that. And so you get about a 1,500 square foot postage stamp lot, which is kind of the way we have to do subdivision within the Tahoe Regional Planning Agency's sort of jurisdiction. So we have the 1,500 square foot postage stamp that is 2 stories that gets us to that square footage.
Let me see, all of them are going to have a garage?
Yes, with two parking spaces in and 2 parking spaces out.
Okay, and driveway, have you provided for a 20-foot driveway on each of the lots?
Yes.
Okay, and it looks like this is almost a 0 lot line, or some of the buildings will be on a 0 lot line.
There are
no setbacks?
That's a requirement from TRPA, is 0 lot line. But yes, there's no setbacks within the individual residential lot. There is setbacks between the structure and the edge of the envelope lot for the homeowner association, kind of the common area lot. So the structure is set back from that property line, but the way TRPA has us do our lots is 0 lot line to the structure, and then our setbacks are taken from the structure to the sort of neighboring property, neighboring property or street or back shore.
Okay, for me, that's enough for now.
Anyone else? Thank you very much. I guess commissioners, we're looking at this point for either discussion or a motion or.
I figure out how to pull up my map.
Well, I have some comments, if you'd indulge me for a few minutes. I'd first like to say how frustrated I am with how this has gone. It should not, in my opinion, be in front of the commission as it is currently presented. It runs so counter to the area plan and to the visioning that the Kings Beach people put together that I just don't understand why we are here looking at this. And so if you look at the area plan, as I say, it runs so counter, is that as it defines more of a mixed use, pages 49, pages 125, and page 190 address what is considered mixed use. And on page 190, it really indicates that no less than 30%. And I'm not buying that this community building is commercial in any way. And what commercial there is really kind of a very, very small token. And so I just don't see that it fits that at all. I think if you look at, which was referenced earlier by somebody, if you look at page 132 of the area plan, it's very specific as it relates to the Kings Beach area. And it's, if you look at 2, which addresses the town center of Kings Beach, if you look at 2B, it says this sub-district is the center of Kings Beach area located lakeside of North Lake Boulevard. It's intended to maintain and enhance the pedestrian and transit-oriented environment of retail, restaurants, tourist accommodations, and mixed-use development, and enhanced access to the lake and recreational activities. And this project doesn't fit that. I feel badly for the developer because he's been allowed to go down this road when that should have been something that was addressed right up front, is that how does this fit with what the vision of the community is, and how does it fit with the area plan, which we've worked very hard to develop as a community. This really, if you think about it, I mean, there's been a real effort by the community, by the county, to make some really positive changes in the Kings Beach area. And if you look at the streetscape, it's a huge improvement over what was here previously. So I look at it, look, we made a huge investment, and we have this opportunity, a one-time opportunity. And we're going to lose it if we don't really try to fit this into what's going to be best for the community. Because what we're doing is narrowing it down to a benefit to just a handful of people are going to get the benefit of this versus the whole community. and those who would take advantage of visiting this community. So I don't believe it fits the area plan. I don't believe it fits the vision. I will certainly be voting very strongly against moving this forward, but I would really, really, really encourage, and I'm frustrated that this hasn't happened already. Again, the county's made a huge investment. The community has made a very loud statement of what they would like to see. There should be a partnership going on between the community, the county, and the developer to come up with something that works for everybody. Instead of something that's just, again, completely counter to where I think the direction should be. So I just wanted to get that out there, and I'm just frustrated because this got dumped in our lap as a commission when it really should have been resolved at the staff level, working with all of the parties involved. Sorry, that's not what I was after. Thank you. I've been spending a lot of time on this over the last few days, and I just really feel like we, as a county, we went way off track, and this should not have happened. And I think that the advisory, I really looked a lot of times when we're looking at projects, I listen very closely to the advisory councils of those particular areas because they are, they feel and touch their community every day. I don't. And so when they made that statement of a complete denial of the project, that spoke loudly to me, loudly that I can't ignore. So, okay, folks, that's where I am.
Thank you. Any other commissioners?
Yeah, I think I'd like to tail on. Oh, I didn't get them both on. I saw the blue light. I thought it was connected. I think that I agree a lot with some of the things you've said, and from my perspective, I think that I'm in pretty good contact with the community and what's going on, because I also serve on TRPA, and so it's a little. I was likewise somewhat frustrated with the fact that this project came forward with absolutely no discussion or any input or any feeling from anywhere. I had no knowledge that it was this close to being there until I learned at TRPA recently that we were getting ready to schedule it. And I said, well, we haven't even heard it in the county level. And so I think the mistake that we're making that we need to try to deal with, and that is that we need to have some more public contact with the project and the people. I think that episode didn't go well, I didn't think. And I'm getting phone calls now, after the horse is out of the barn, I guess, saying, the community really didn't know what was going on very well. It wasn't very well publicized locally, or they didn't have public hearings. There's a lot of things that the community felt they were sort of treated like a stepchild, and I think that was unfortunate because I was more sympathetic because I also had no idea that it was so close to being brought forward for approval. And I generally like to help and support good projects and make sure that they don't get an unfair treatment. But I'd have to agree with my colleague over here that not enough may not have gotten done leading up to this point. I think the public was somewhat disenfranchised, I guess is the only word that I can come up with. And that doesn't speak to the project itself. I'm not talking about the quality or the lack of quality of the project itself. I guess as a local, I would have said, that is a choice site in our community, and we want to be sure that what we get there is the best bang for our buck. And it most represents what we had hoped would happen in the community plan when this time finally came. And I think, from my perspective, I think that we should have perhaps spent more time in this kind of a context where people can voice their concerns, and we can also listen to the proponent and find out why we can't do some things, but other things maybe we can accomplish. And we just didn't have that interplay between the county and the developer. And I think that my preference would be to give the community another shot at meeting with the developer and getting their voice heard, maybe perhaps a little stronger, and then bringing it back to this commission for another run at either approving of an amended or an upscale project or an amended project of some kind that sort of satisfies a great deal of the concern that I'm hearing anyway. I'm not complaining about the project necessarily. I think there's some things that I frankly think that the site should have been perhaps more intensely developed with a hotel. It's right in the middle of town, and we've talked about this for years. But I tend to think that we're desperately in need of good housing, whether it's hotels or condominiums. I don't know whether there's a great preference there or not, but it's we're desperately in need of more. And I think that we need to do it in perhaps a slightly more harmonious fashion if we can. I'm typically supporting these kinds of projects, but I think right now we kind of skipped one little process here and didn't get a fair shot for the community to get heard very well. And I think it's going to continue. I'm hearing from the Board of Supervisors, I'm hearing from other people that this didn't go through quite to the normal process, and I think we need to just back up a half a step and perhaps give the community that opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you. Sam?
Let's see if this is if it's on, if you can hear me. First up, I want to thank all of those that are coming forward. I thank all of those at the county, the developers that have spent the time and effort to put this project forward. You know, about 30 years ago, one of my very first visits to Lake Tahoe, I was an impoverished college student, and I stayed at the Ferrari Crown. Subsequent to that, and several terms on planning commissions and dealing with local land use and a whole myriad of other related community impacting kinds of issues. A former property owner in Kings Beach, so I can recognize all the unique nuances that Kings Beach has and attributes, as well as deficits. And a current property owner over in Tahoe City. I think that the project as put before us today is half-baked at best. I think the proposal has a myriad of huge impacts that have not been adequately analyzed. I'm very concerned about the TAU, which is the tourist accommodation units. And while there are 92 units there currently, a very creative proposal, I'm not an architect, but a very creative architect could come up with something that could provide, 150 units or 300 units or something for the amount of property that is actually there, that has more of a direct benefit to the community than what I see is very expensive condominiums that will benefit very few. I do like a number of the aspects as far as the environmental improvements go, and some of the curbside improvements that are a part of this project, as well as many other aspects. But I just think on the whole, the community is much too invested in Kings Beach to allow a project to move forward that doesn't have more community input in working in concert with the developers and with the county. So that's my position.
Thank you. Richard, do you have another question?
Yeah. Yeah, I guess this is for staff. I look at the map and the number of parking places, and some of the buildings are just going to be a shell, and so you don't really know what's going to go into them yet. And then the restaurant area, I guess I'm just wondering how we determine the right number of parking places, or what, if we have them, do we have the right number?
Excellent question. In the new
Tahoe area plan, we do allow now, instead of having a variance or set standard for what the parking is, which is in the document, but we allow the opportunity for the applicant through environmental review to provide parking studies to do the analysis. And we look at the walkability, the closest bus stop, and we take that all into consideration. We factor in, how many people are coming by foot, how many by cars. So there is part of the analysis in the environmental document. There is a consultant, parking consultant that reviews that. Staff then reviews it as well for traffic analysis and parking. So from staff level, it does meet what the area plan is looking at to provide walkability, to allow people who do want to stop at the restaurant or the retail to park at nearby. But it is meant also to be walkability. And that's where that walkway is coming into effect. So when people come down and want to go to the restaurant, they're already on foot, then come inside and be seated. But to answer the question, you will see too in future projects, a lot of the analysis will be attached with a parking and traffic analysis with it, and that's how we made our determinations on the parking.
Okay.
Thank you. Any other comments? Do we have a motion that we?
Well, I'd like to make a stab at one.
Let her rip.
And see where it goes. I guess I could say that, let's see, I'm still trying to develop this in my head, but I guess I'd like to kind of go where Larry was going, in that I'd like to turn this back to staff. I don't know exactly now how to do the wording of that, but I'd like to request that the county take a lead on facilitating more engagement from the community with the developer to come up with a plan that works for everybody. And I understand the limitations of the property are going to limit what can be done there, but I think it needs to be fleshed out more than it has been with the community. So I know that's a long, if I'm trying to make a motion, that's kind of a more complicated one. But I guess I'm just trying to say that I think we need to, as Larry said, back up a little bit and get more community engagement in this. And I just don't, as I said, I can't support approving it as it's presented today. So I'd like to, again, kick it back.
Are you talking about a continuation or?
Yeah,
that's what you're proposing?
I would say a continuation where it goes back to the county.
That would be the motion if
Right.
you were interested in that kind of option,
Right.
would be to continue this to an open date to allow
Right.
staff to kind of further develop this.
Correct.
And obtain more public
Right,
input.
to be the facilitator of working this out with the community and the developer.
Just in that same vein, if you are going to continue it, it might be worth, and I don't know if staff has any kind of questions, but it might be worth providing staff some kind of direction as to what you would like to see, or kind of what input you can provide staff to kind of come back with something.
Well, I guess I haven't said enough at this point. I really want them to be the facilitators between bringing the community, key members of the community together, because I don't know how you want to decide that, but, and the developer and work this out, flush this out, see if there's a way to find some common ground. Does that give you enough, Alan, or do you want something a little clearer than that?
Okay, so we have a motion, I think, and a second.
I'd like to elaborate a little bit on the motion, if I could, just a second. Just say that I think there's a good opportunity here to get the community and staff and have some public discussions at least, and you're not going to make everybody happy. We understand the process just doesn't work that way, I guess, but it is, I think that it is possible that we can carve out a project that will perhaps do a better job of satisfying the community. I was frankly a little bit surprised that we hadn't had more community type meetings for the public to comment leading up to this hearing. And I think we can improve on that a little bit and get some good quality inputs as part of the continuation.
Yeah, we only have one shot at getting this right. So let's, I think a little more time works.
With respect to a continuance too, the commission is free to select a date at some time out if they want to rehear it, or they can continue it to an open date too, depending on.
That's part of my motion, I'd leave it as an open date.
Part of that too, if the commission's interested, that they can always obtain kind of the input from the applicant as to what the applicant would prefer as well. So those are all options available.
So
Are you going to ask for input from the applicant?
Alan?
I may raise too, and again, talking to the community and the applicant, and I like the idea of the open date because as we analyze the environmental document, I've got to strategize internally, actually with EJ and environmental coordination and other staff, about the environmental too. So yeah, something where staff, maybe if EJ will cut me off, he'll tell me otherwise, but if, we'll give you a status report periodically where we're at. But I do have to say, being staff, sometimes it's a big apple to chew. So I don't know if I can promise right away if things really start changing environmentally and stuff like that. So I just want to put that out there.
We have a wonderful staff.
All right, so we have a motion and a second.
Right.
Sue, roll call, please.
Okay. Okay, the motion I have is to continue to an open date to obtain additional public input facilitated by the county between the applicant and community members.
That sounded even better than when Wayne said it.
I was
Okay.
rambling all over the place.
She should speak for her.
Okay.
Well done.
So first by Wayne, or the motion by Mr. Nader, and a second by Mr. Sevison. So a vote from Mr. Cannon.
Yes.
Mr. Herzog?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Nader?
Yes.
Mr. Hauge is abstained, I'm sorry. Mr. Sevison?
Yes.
Mr. Moss?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, so that being said, now is this an appealable thing because we continued it and didn't really make a decision, so there's nothing to appeal?
If you don't have a final decision, there's
Nothing to appeal, okay. That being said, before we move on to the next item, let's take 10 minutes and let us find our other commissioner and a few other important things.
Thank you, sir.
Guys, listen, we gotta go outside.
Oh, we're way over time.
All right, we got sound back on. We're rolling here, and we are at our 10:45 item, the Amazing Facts Ministry.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. I'm Delaney Farnham with Planning Services Division. Today we have the Amazing Facts Ministry minor use permit modification. The project is located off of Sierra College Boulevard in between Secret Ravine Parkway and Rockland Road in the Granite Bay area. The site is bordered by the city of Rockland to the north, as well as the town of Loomis. City of Roseville is located west of Sierra College Boulevard. The project site is zoned FBX 20, which is farm, combining minimum build site of 20 acres. The developed portion of the project site is a 17-acre campus for the Amazing Facts Ministry. The request is to modify an existing minor use permit to add an additional 10,000 square foot storage building to be used for storage of materials associated with the Amazing Facts Ministry. The proposed minor use permit modification will add 10,000 square feet to bring a total of 110,820 square feet to the House of Worship site. A final EIR was previously certified for the Amazing Facts Ministry project, and that was done in June of 2012. The proposed storage building, in combination with all other approved structures on site, would not exceed the maximum 208,020 square feet of structures that were analyzed as part of the certified final EIR, nor will it exceed the maximum 120,100 square feet that was ultimately approved by the Planning Commission as a reduced project alternative in the EIR. The proposed structure will be located southwest on the project site, located directly south of the existing parking area, south of the existing administration building, and situated at the basement level of the administration building. The storage building will be a metal shell building approximately 21 feet tall. It will be painted a neutral tone to match the existing structures on site. It will operate strictly as storage space. No office space or restroom facilities are proposed within that structure. The structure will not be visible from Sierra College Boulevard and will be screened on the west by a proposed earthen berm. The berm will be constructed at the same elevation of the roof of the storage building. Additionally, a 7-foot high sound wall is currently constructed along the western property line. This will also provide further screening from neighbors located on the west. The Development Review Committee recommends that the Planning Commission take the following actions subject to the findings and revised recommended conditions of approval attached in the staff report. Find that the project is categorically exempt, and find that the minor use permit modification to allow a 10,000 square foot storage structure be used for storage of materials associated with the Amazing Facts Ministry site. If you have any questions, I'm available.
Okay, I guess just out of curiosity, is this the same organization that was the applicant when the original proposal was put together?
That is correct.
Okay, and as I remember, the original proposal did include a storage building.
Yes. Since the time of the original approval, there has been a substantial conformance that was made. During that substantial conformance, there was some reconfiguration of the structures, and notably the storage area was removed and the administration building kind of acted as office space. So in between the time it was approved at Planning Commission, substantial conformance did sort of reorganize some of that square footage allotment to different structures.
Okay, so this is really not a lot different than what originally was proposed?
That is correct. So we are staying within the original approved square footages and within the original approved uses. They have just done some minor alterations in the intermittent time, and now we're coming back because there is a need for additional storage.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Really, real quick, can you go back to the site plan?
Sure.
So Sierra College, we're down.
Yeah, this doesn't give a great detail of Sierra College. Sierra College is located north, so north of the parking area. You can't really see it on this plan, but it's at least 700 feet away from the edge of Sierra College.
I guess what I'm looking at, living down in the area and driving around there regularly.
Yeah.
The two existing buildings from the downhill side, from the area of Cabot, Stallman, and Barton and stuff, are considerably more visible than I anticipated, based on balloons being flown and those kind of things that were done to test. And I'm just curious as to where within that view shed, or what you call it, the building would be.
Yeah, we did take a look at that kind of southern view shed looking uphill towards that project site. There is existing oak woodland that would be basically right south of that proposed storage building. So we believe with the existing landscaping, existing native oak woodland that is there, the potential for this to be seen by the neighboring parcels to the south is quite low. We did take a drive down there. There is like a wholesale nursery kind of located south of this site. From our view shed, we could not tell that structure, being where the elevation it's going to be proposed at the basement level, it's going to kind of fit in with the existing grade of the site.
And how tall is it proposed?
The structure is proposed to be 21 feet tall.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Let me see, I guess it seemed like before they owned actually a larger piece of property than just what they show with their development now. They still own the same property?
They do, that is right. I believe the combined acreage on the parcel is near 75 acres.
Okay.
What is developed is a 21-acre portion, and about the campus is of roughly 17 acres.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
All right, anyone else? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Would the applicant like to?
Hello, my name is Mike Moreland. I am the owner's representative on the project. If you can go back to the site plan, the only thing that I'd like to point out is that if you look at, I've driven down on Cabot Stallman as well, and you can see the structures from Cabot Stallman somewhat, but what you do see is the upper two floors. And if you look at the finished floor of the proposed building, the starting point is 496, the elevation. And when you add the structure to that, we will still be, we'll come up to just about the first floor of the existing structure. So I really don't think that you're going to be seeing much of it, if any, from Cabot Stallman or anywhere else north of there. Yeah, it comes up to the floor of the first floor.
Okay.
Anything else you'd like to know?
Good. That's good. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
At this point, we'll open it up for public comment. Anyone wish to address the commission on this item? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and close that and bring it back to the commission. We have a motion.
Yeah, I'll motion that we approve. I'll do the first item there. Find the project categorically exempt. Let me make sure. Yeah, it's a recommended condition. Okay, well, I'll move that we approve the first item, which is find the project categorically exempt from environmental review pursuant to provisions of Section 15303E of the California Environmental Quality Act guidelines and Section 18.36050E of the Placer County Environmental Review Ordinance Class 3, new construction of accessory structures. Because the proposed modification will add new construction that will not exceed 10,000 square feet.
Second.
Have a motion and a second.
I have a motion by Mr. Herzog, a second by Mr. Sevison, so a vote for Mr. Cannon, please.
Yes.
Mr. Herzog?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Nader?
Yes.
Mr. Hauge?
Yes.
Mr. Sevison? Mr. Moss?
Yes.
Thank you.
Secondly, I'd like to motion that we approve the requested minor use permit modification PLN 19-00183 to allow a 10,000 square foot storage building to be used for storage of materials associated with the Amazing Facts Ministry, supported by the findings in the staff report
And also conditions of
and the conditions of approval. Do I need to
Second.
say that all over again? Okay.
A second.
Have a motion, do we have a second?
A second.
Okay, have a second from Sam?
I had an earlier motion. I heard a second from Mr. Sevison.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Oh.
So a first from Mr. Herzog, a second by Mr. Sevison. A vote from Mr. Cannon.
Yes.
Mr. Herzog.
Yes.
Mr. Johnson.
Yes.
Mr. Nader.
Yes.
Mr. Hauge.
Yes.
Mr. Sevison.
Yes.
Mr. Moss.
Yes.
Thank you.
Amazing fact.
All right. That brings us up to our 11 o'clock.
Isn't it lunchtime yet?
Thank you.
We all set here? Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. I'm Patrick Dobbs from the Planning Services Division, and I'm happy to be here today to present the Housing Strategy and Development Plan Workshop. Just an overview of our discussion today. I think many of you are familiar with the concepts and to some degree the details of what's going to be discussed today here. My supervisor, Shauna Purvines, gave a great presentation to you all last month that discussed kind of the housing related efforts that are underway countywide. This housing strategic plan and development plan is just one piece. It's a critical component, but it's one piece of this larger effort to address Placer County's housing shortage. This is a county-initiated project. It is strategic housing-related policy and implementation tool updates that would require amendments to the general plan, zoning ordinance, zoning maps, and would update the development and design standards for multifamily and mixed-use projects. The goal here is an improved framework for future housing that balances projected population growth, economic factors, demographics, and to the degree that we can, mitigates associated transportation-related environmental impacts. The proposed amendments would not apply within the Tahoe Basin, but would apply in the unincorporated areas outside of TRPA's jurisdiction, such as Alpine Meadows or Serene Lakes. These strategies are not new. The impetus of this project is really to implement adopted and existing general plan policies that support efficient and sustainable housing development through higher density, mixed use, transit-oriented, and infill projects. So our primary objectives and what we believe implementation of this project will deliver is an increase in the availability and mix of housing types. Many of the people who work in Placer County can't afford to live here, and so that lack of affordable housing has in part driven a shortage of skilled laborers and workers. So we want to address workforce affordable housing. If those workers live in the area, then their commutes are shortened, and that's a reduction in vehicle miles traveled and associated greenhouse gas emissions. The state has been very active over the last couple of years regarding updates to housing laws. So we need to bring our codes into conformance with state housing law. We need to align our general plan and zoning ordinance with some of the more recently approved specific plans, area plans, and community plans. I didn't catch the whole discussion earlier for that Lakeside Redevelopment, but that's an example where mixed use is a use that is within the Tahoe Basin Area Plan, but you really don't find that use available in many areas of the other parts of the county. And finally, this project would implement the county's adopted strategic plan that supports construction of a mix of housing types for all income levels for existing and future residents. Some background here. A few years ago, the CEO created a multi-department housing unit. It is comprised of staff from the CEO office, economic development, CEDRA, as well as health and human services. The board supported a menu of strategies that could be adapted for the different parts of the county and their varying priorities and needs. They asked that we explore code changes, incentives, funding sources, partnerships, and other non-traditional housing varieties as a means to achieve that goal. Let's see, the board approved an annual housing work plan. This housing strategy and development plan is one of the deliverables of that annual housing work plan. We have coordinated with a consultant, BAE, Urban Economics, and we kind of kicked off the effort with a number of housing studies that identified opportunity sites, supply and needs. We reviewed state housing policy changes and as well as what other jurisdictions are doing that have been successful to increase housing and accelerate housing production. So we've developed a number of recommendations. They fit in these kind of 6 buckets or categories of policy and planning, regulatory relief, housing production and supply, streamlined processing, preservation and protection of our existing affordable housing stock, and local funding needed to support housing development. We've been very transparent in the development of these amendments. There's been extensive and widespread public outreach. We've had housing forums. We have a whole housing website that's been developed. We've had focus group meetings with realtors, architects, builders, designers, legal and social services. We've done preliminary rounds with the municipal advisory committees. We have a housing newsletter that goes out on a regular basis. We've had flash vote surveys, and we have utilized different social media platforms. So we have reached out to tens of thousands of residents, and we have received responses from thousands of those residents. As I mentioned, the state has been very active the last couple of years regarding housing legislation. This is a very busy snapshot of the various assembly bills and Senate bills that have been passed to streamline the approval process and strengthen the Housing Affordability Act. This exhibit is included as attachment A of your packet. I bring this up because this shows commercial and existing residential zone districts that are near public transit, and that's really been the focus of this effort. These areas on the screen represent less than 5% of the total parcels in Placer County, and again, we're really trying to primarily target infill and affordable housing by design to meet our regional housing obligations. So to briefly touch on the proposed amendments, there are really 4 components that would be reflected in various county documents, whether it be the general plan or the zoning ordinance. So this first component, it deals with mixed use and multifamily. We would be creating a new mixed use zone district and land use. We would not be rezoning any parcels at this time. It would be, in a sense, a floating district that if someone were to request a rezone into, they could do that, or maybe as part of a housing element update by the county, we could be looking at rezoning parcels to mixed use. Again, along those streamlining efforts, these amendments would allow multifamily employee and caretaker housing by right. The second component is this whole concept of cluster housing and this compact development model that you see in California. We would be revising our plan development ordinance to simplify it and make it more user-friendly. These concepts of agrihoods or artists, live-work areas, cottage and co-housing. This all gets to that idea of shared spaces that maximizes infrastructure efficiency and protects resources, whether it be agriculture or other natural resources. The third component it relates to density and density bonuses. That first item, there's a typo on there. We would be looking to increase our mobile home park density from 8 to 12 units per acre. So sorry, that 2 units is not correct. We would allow tiny homes on wheels as primary or secondary residences. We have established a dwelling unit equivalence. This is similar to what is often applied in senior citizen developments and such, where there are reduced impact fees because there are reduced consumption of services and resources. In certain limited instances, we would allow up to a 4-plex in single-family zones. Again, this is they would need to be served by public services, sewer and water and such. We need to be consistent with California's density bonus for affordable housing, and we would increase that density bonus up to 100% for affordable housing projects. I mentioned that we're not rezoning any parcels into mixed use, but there are a number of commercial and multifamily parcels out there that we are looking to remove or replace some of the existing combining districts that require higher levels of discretionary review and streamline that process, requiring more of a design level review. As far as the fourth component, this really is centered around this mixed use and multifamily design standards and guidelines. We're trying to maximize the potential of some of these sites and would provide some flexibility with parking, height, and lot coverage, allow greater floor area allowances, and again, this idea of by right, as long as you're consistent with standards. So as far as next steps, following today's direction from the Planning Commission, we will be releasing a notice of preparation for an environmental impact report for this project. During that NOP comment period, we'll be having a public scoping meeting. We have contracts approved with 2 consultants. Diet and Bhatia is going to help us develop these mixed use and multifamily design standards and guidelines. And ICF, Jones and Stokes will help with the programmatic environmental impact report. We will go, again, to all of the MACs, and once that draft environmental impact report is available, there will be a 45-day public comment period. We hope to be back before you in about a year for action on this item, and then carry your recommendation forward to the Board of Supervisors. So again, today is just a workshop. There is no formal action requested. We want your feedback, and there are a number of attachments. We've tried to help you understand the extent of the changes, the preliminary language that we're contemplating, and where in the various documents these would be located. And with that, that concludes our presentation, and welcome any comments and feedback. Thank you.
Comments?
I have a, go ahead. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Nate.
Thanks, Patrick.
Yes.
Well done. After today, we had this multi-use conversation, and I think you were here for part of that.
Yeah, yes.
How are we going to define that? We heard some percentages, some building use. Are we going to have clarity on that with this document and some direction as well?
Actually, Jeff, I read all of this, and it's really good.
Okay.
I want to compliment you guys on your multi-use definitions, guidelines, whatever. And all I can say is hopefully that can get into the North Tahoe plan, because I think it is really good guidance.
I couldn't have answered it better than that. Thank you, Commissioner.
That's
Anyone
it.
else?
Yeah. Patrick, EJ was sharing on the way up that there are some bills that are pending that may get approved in the next couple of months that address housing. And one sounds pretty radical in that it would waive fees, I mean, all fees. And so on smaller second dwellings. And so I'm just wondering, because these ones that have been coming up, they've been implementing them, I mean, really rapidly. So it's possible that if it's approved, I would bet the governor's going to sign it and this thing will be in effect by the end of the year. So as you're working through this, are you going to be potentially modifying what you're doing to address this, whatever bills do come out?
Shauna's going to help.
Yeah, so that's a Senate bill that's going through to remove the requirement for fees, including impact fees on accessory dwelling units. Absolutely. At this point, what we have prepared, that wouldn't affect. It would affect other areas of the county as it relates to how our impact fees are collected, but it wouldn't actually address the code changes and standards that we're looking at here. That being said, there are some other bills that are coming through. You saw that fun little slide up there of all of them. That, if they do, if they do affect what we are doing, then we would have to modify that. At this point in time, though, we've been tracking them pretty closely and have tried to align our recommendations to the best as we can with those bills we believe are going to actually
what you think is coming. So, because I was just going to say, if there's something that they do approve, I'm just trying to, are you going to try to address that? Because, Patrick is saying the time frame is be back to us in a year.
Mm-hmm.
So that's certainly time to address whatever the legislature and the governor come up with. And one of the other questions would be is how much consideration was given to modifying fees as an incentive for particular types of housing? Is there any part of that might happen?
Again, this project itself is really targeting that zoning code and the design standards, not the fee programs. But yes, under the overall housing work program, there is a discussion about modifying fees, mostly looking to go to like a per square footage, so maybe incentivize the smaller units.
Sure.
But that's a pretty major undertaking to update those fee schedules and the nexus studies that go with them.
Because obviously you're hearing it, we're hearing it, that developers are not building affordable houses because they say it doesn't pencil for them. So if there's ways that we can incent them by making the process much simpler for them on the approval side, which you folks are making miles of progress on that, and then also do something on the fees, maybe we can kind of juice that up a little bit and get a little more activity in that area.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Sam?
I would just echo
the comments of my commissioner colleagues in the
job well done. And then anecdotally offer this. As someone who spent 20 years working at the state legislature, I've never before heard it described as streamlining, who retired out of frustration. So I thought that was a humorous note, but well done.
Thank you.
Quick comment, if we're doing reviews on this, I would like something to analyze. As we add fees, I mean, we're talking about to incentivize building of smaller units and more affordable units, that we need to address fees and lower fees and what have you. Well, knowing what I know, that doesn't mean those fees go away. It just means they get transferred somewhere else, like to the housing that's not considered affordable housing. As we charge fees for affordable housing on non-affordable housing, we're, I believe, taking more players out of the market than we're putting in. And I'd like to see some sort of analysis done on that to either tell me I'm wrong or to confirm that we're really doing, in some cases, more harm than good. It's just who we're affecting, not how many.
Is that part of the...
So again, kind of part of that the bigger picture, we are taking a look at the overall fees, including specifically the affordable housing fee that you're speaking of, and in one of the recommendations that is starting to bubble to the top is to look at a mechanism or mechanisms that can support more of a public-private partnership that's spread a little bit further as opposed to targeting those fees to specific types of development. We'll actually be talking with the board about that on August 6th as that has come forward. So.
Shauna, don't go away.
Okay.
On fees, our next meeting, we're going to talk about the Placer County Conservation project. And there's a big part of that that's fees, I mean, that go on for pages, it seems like, anyway. And I think it appears to me that it's pretty detrimental to the smaller projects, I mean, as far as the cost of that. So I guess I'm asking, are you going to be a part of that discussion? Because I think that could have a real impact on what we're trying to do as far as affordable housing. I mean, we're adding more fees, I mean, pretty substantial in some cases, and then in the PCCP, it goes down all the way to a half-acre project. So I'm just concerned about that.
Sure.
And the implications of that.
And yeah, I'll be a part of those conversations as we go along and have been with Greg, who will be providing you that update. So, yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, just another viewpoint. At TRPA for years and years and years, we've tried to minimize the amount of housing we created in the basin. And now we are looking at how are we going to create housing. And so we're looking at allowing small additions to single-family residence in existing subdivisions as the primary source, because we've got huge numbers of people commuting from Reno and outside the basin in, and so it's not only creating a housing problem, but it's creating a traffic problem. So we're going to try to, we haven't got the answers yet, but we're looking at least from in the basin area, of trying to find ways to accommodate some of the workforce housing in existing housing that we have, and allow make exceptions for overrides for parking and pervious coverage and different things that hopefully it'll allow it to happen. But it's going to be difficult because there's no, to my knowledge, there's very little state funding to help accommodate this, and the state's endorsing it. And I think it's about time for the state of California in particular to look at financing some of these efforts to improve the housing situation, because it's pretty bad.
Yes, I mean, you're looking at someone who knows it firsthand. I used to work for TRPA, and I lived here. I know poverty with a view. And, and I know how we all pass each other on the roads every day, and the environmental impacts associated with that. So, you know, I certainly am one who's pleased to see that you know, kind of new mentality, and I hope it keeps a lot of the great people that are already here.
We miss you.
Anyone else? All right, Patrick, thank you. Sean, thank you.
Thank you.
I guess with that, we have public comment. Anybody wishing to address?
Any publics?
Any publics? No comments from. All right, with that, we'll go ahead and close the meeting and adjourn. Thank you very much.